It's Carson Gray Hardy. Welcome to the party. Thank you for joining. In today's video, we are going to be looking at how to make this creative headshot. It's the new year, so you gotta get a new look. You don't have to, but here's my advice on how to do it. This is just one way. There's always plenty of ways to get to the same result. But in today's video, I'm going to be using Photoshop, Lightroom, and Illustrator. But you can honestly do this all on Photoshop. So feel free to explore more possibilities. But if you already have a photo ready, you can skip to this point in the timeline. Otherwise, continue watching. So the shooting on this one was fairly simple. Just straight behind me, I had on a tripod this camera right here on a 70-200, which is my long lens right here. And then I put my main aperture 120D up on the C-stand. And then I used this nice little light just hooked onto here. This hook is super handy, and that's how I got that edge light. Had the key light right here, and then I had that small little aperture 120, aperture M9 just kind of down below, just to kind of give a little bit more of an eye light. I like to always add that because it really draws the viewer into it. So really this is a 3-point lighting. We've got the key, we've got the back, and then we've got our eye light right here. I made sure to close the blinds, that way we could really, control the light the way we wanted to. So let's hop into how we edited this, and y'all can really see how the magic happens. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also had my green screen just on my TV. It's not the first time I've done that. Now I hop onto Photoshop and I just duplicated the layers, but I'm quickly going over to Illustrator now to create a circle, because most of these, social media platforms are going to be cropping your image to a circle. So in order to make this square apparent, I'm going to go ahead and create the square within it. I'm pressing Control Y in order to see the outlines of the shapes. That way it's just easier to see where the center is. Just simply making that outside border. Gonna put distinctive colors on everything just so I can, really tell what I'm doing. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this artboard. Just gonna zoom out here. Okay, just holding Alt on the artboard, that way I can get it over. And then I'm gonna simply go to the Pathfinder, and basically I made the border shape that we're gonna be using. Copied that, then headed over to Photoshop. We're going to paste it as a smart object. I'm trying to stretch it to make it fit. For some reason it does not seem to be snapping. I want this to be pretty exact because that's why we went on Adobe Illustrator. So simply just turned it away from the smart object. I'm just transforming it. It looks like the top and the sides are what's going to actually make it snap. So that's perfect, just making sure. Okay, perfect. Everything's looking good so far. Now what I'm going to do is actually use the new Select Subject tool in order to get myself, that way I can have myself pop out of this box. The other way to do this would be to go to color range. Over here trying to select this green, although it does look like the top of my green is quite black, so I'm actually selecting too much of the hat. So we're going to go back and try that new Select Subject tool. That's probably going to be the best for us today. Going to go ahead and zoom in, check these borders. It does look like the mask is a little off, but that's not going to be an issue. We're just going to go ahead and you know, play with the feathering a little bit, make it look a little bit cleaner, but we can always go in and fix that later. So we're gonna go over and we're gonna hit the mask tool. It looks like we need to invert it. That's Control I. It's looking good so far. Got an initial look. The edges are looking not the best. Now, best thing to do for this is we're gonna use black and white on the mask tool for a brush. Now, I typically use my iPad for this. I use Duet Display Pro, but for this instance, I am using a mouse. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of color this back in, just kind of getting an outline. We can always remove this, but if you look at the mask, we are actually coloring with black, and that's going to show more of the image. Then we can go back over and use white. But I'm just gonna kind of get the basic look right now. It does look like my hat is not completely perfect. It looks like it did have a little bit of a divish. If you had a better green screen, that's what would really, you know, help with this selection. But we're gonna kind of just make sure my neck looks fine, and then we'll fix the inner part of the neck a bit later, because it doesn't seem like I can go quite that outward on the white border. But whenever we go and select the inside and make that green a different color, we can go ahead and, you know, fix the edges inside to kind of match the ones outside. So you could go ahead and copy the mask from the border, but I typically like to get a new selection. But we're gonna go ahead and just make a new layer, make it black. It does look slightly green. I think it's just because I'm looking at green. Gotta go back to this, but I'm gonna try to see what the mask is gonna look like if I just copy it over. It honestly doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's pretty good. The only thing is I already made my adjustments with the brush on it, so it's probably gonna be best for me to just select a new mask using select subject. Perfect. You know, fine tune it a little bit, change that radius, maybe just a little bit of feather mostly. But it's always good to use the different view modes. I find red is the easiest because it's just very bright. Just fine tune in here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go to the black layer, and I'm going to mask it. Turn it back on. Again, it typically does the wrong mask, so we're going to go ahead and Command or Control I that, and it just inverts the mask for you. So now you can see kind of the look we're going for. I just wanted to keep it pretty basic, so black on white. I'm really starting to like the way this is looking now. It just takes your standard headshot to another level, but what's going to really sell the effect is going to be going in to that mask and kind of brushing away the areas we want to. I'm seeing the social media platforms, and it's going to be a small, like 1 to 2 inch, you know, it's not going to be anything huge, so you don't have to make it perfect, but you know, if that's what you want to do, by any means, just do it. Just checking out both of my masks here, seeing which one is actually going to be my logo. It is a bit of back and forth right here, so I'm just turning off the layers to kind of check which one it is. It does get a bit confusing whenever you have all these masks, but the thing with masks is it's pretty much non-destructive, and that's what I really like about them. So just gonna go in here, fine tuning. You can see some of the green screen coming back, so we're not gonna really mess with that, but you can see this edge is not looking that clean. So what we're gonna do is, again, I gotta keep switching between each layer. And you can simply switch between the black and white, your primary and secondary color, by just pressing X, and that's what I'm doing here. Just pressing X and then playing with the black, playing with the white, making sure my feathering's looking right, but making sure to blend it. I don't think I'm going to blend the other side because that's where the light's coming from, but overall I'm really liking the way this is looking. Honestly, at this point, I think we are done. Like I said, if you wanted to be a little bit more of a perfectionist, you could go ahead and play with it a bit more, but make sure to always duplicate your background layer. I go ahead and do my adjustments on the second layer. That way I can, get rid of maybe a little bit of acne, stuff like that. Now we saved it, and since we opened it from Lightroom, we saved it back into Lightroom. That's what I love about using Lightroom and then right-clicking and editing in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do here is kind of play with the look. I'm going to see what it looks like if I flip it. I do kind of like the light coming from that side. The only thing I am noticing is that my logo is actually in reverse now. I don't have a super symmetric logo. Now, what I usually do on any type of portrait, sorry, having issues kind of zooming in, but what I like to do with mini portraits is going into Iris Enhance and just adding this subtle pop to the eyes. That way, the viewer is drawn right to them. It pretty much just adds a little bit more exposure on them. Again, you can light it to have a little more underlight, although I think it would have taken away from the dramatic look that I was personally going for. But as you can see, it's subtle, but it is bringing your eyes towards it. So we're going to go ahead, and if you actually take your brush, I'm actually on the wrong thing here, but if you go back to the brush, you select your last selection and you hold the Alt, it's kind of like the masking, and we're just taking away those edges we don't want. So it's additive at first, and then we go with subtractive. Okay, perfect. Well, that is going to conclude this video. I appreciate you all for watching. Like I said, the key to this is having a great key, and your green screen is going to really play a big part. So thank you for watching. If you could subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to be making more tutorials, and I plan on doing more vlogs because those are a lot of fun. But 2021 is going to be a great year. You're going to be going into it with a great headshot. Catch you guys in the next.